Good morning. Today, I'm going to address the question that provides justification for any scientific theory that explains where memories are stored in the brain. Also provide literature review and the pros and cons of the theory. So, people all knowing that memory is the most basic function of the brain and also the most mystic function within the human body. Before exploring the scientific proof and the different parts of the brain that involves in the memory storage, let's look at this objective. So our first objective is to look at the memory storage within the brain by understanding the traditional information processing model. Secondly, we will look at the multiple memory storage theory and the strengths and weaknesses of the theory. Lastly, by supporting the theory, I stated the patient HM experiment, so let's get started. The traditional information processing model is really critical for us to understand before going into today's topic. The traditional information processing model is a framework that is used by cognitive psychologists, and they use this model to explain and describe the mental process. It's really obviously that this model involves 3 different stages. The first stage is called sensory memory. So that means our brain can pick up information from the senses, such as touch, smell, taste, or even sound. In this stage, our sensory neurons can pick up the information from the external environment and then transfer the information to the brain and hold as a short-term memory. This memory is holding temporarily, so after a period of time, the brain can obtain the information when needed and transfer that information to the long-term memory, which can hold for a long period of time. By understanding how information can process to the brain and stay there for either short-term memory or long-term memory, we now look at the different parts of the brain where it can store our memory. So memories can be divided into short-term memory and long-term memory. You can see from the slide here, the short-term memory is also called the working memory. This type of memory can only last for a few seconds or minutes. This type of memory is stored in the prefrontal cortex of our brain, and working memory has a smaller capacity compared with the long-term memory, which the working memory is usually forgetting really quick. The long-term memory has 2 different types, the implicit memory and explicit memory. You can see from here. The implicit memory is the information that you remember unconsciously and effortlessly. It's stored in the basal ganglia and the cerebellum, whereas the explicit memory is the information that you have to consciously work to remember. Like when you're preparing for your final exam or a quiz, you have to put effort to remember the information. It's stored in the hippocampus, the neocortex, and the amygdala. The long-term memory capacity is very large, and the memory can last even for a lifetime, so that's a really long period of time. The concept of multiple memory system theory, MS, is perhaps one of the most successful ideas in cognitive neuroscience. So this multiple memory system theory is first proposed by Harash. He points out that memory system is separate and each of the system performs a different function. Also, the multiple memory systems highlighted that each memory is supported by activities in different areas of the brain. However, none of the theory is perfect. This theory also has strengths and weaknesses. The strength of the theory includes that It points out that each system has a central structure, and the central structure performs its information processing functions independently of the others. The limitation of the theory is the disassociation thought to compute a model system, and it can be produced by computational models which do not involve multiple systems. Therefore, compared with the traditional multiple memory storage model, the more precisely single system review is preferable. This theory has been proven from a very interesting experiment, the patient HM experiment. So the patient HM is the man that I put in the slide here. The researchers showed HM a 5-pointing star with a double outline and asked him to draw its outline with a pencil. On the condition that he could say on his own hand, and the stars reflected in the mirror. HM acquired the mirror drawing skills in 10 trials and demonstrated that good memory within 3 days. The final result of the experiment is that this demonstration is the first to suggest that more than one type of memory exists in the brain and that certain memories must lie outside the medial temporal lobe. This result perfectly proved the multiple memory storage model. The memory system is separate and each of the systems can perform a different function. Lastly, let's evaluate the evidence that used in the presentation. In this presentation, I adopted 3 different types of sources. Psychology book, so the textbook we use for Psychology 1A, UCLA peer-reviewed paper, and patient HM experiment journal article. The psychology book textbook is a reliable source. It's a very reliable source and provides an overview introduction about the brain structure and the memory storage. It also adopts numerous researchers. They journal articles from external reliable sources. However, the psychology textbook is not in depth of the focusing idea to address the theory in depth. The second source is the UCLA peer-reviewed paper. So this paper is peer-reviewed and it can lead to higher accuracy and credibility. It also points out the multiple memory system theory and provide different reviews of the theory. On the other hand, it mainly focuses on the limitation of multiple memory system theory. And the third source that I use is the Legends of Patient HM for Neuroscience journal article. It has intensive database, good research depth, and it strengthens the multiple memory storage theory. However, it's not in depth of analysis patient HM experiment data and not adopting other experiments to emphasize the idea. Overall, from this standpoint, in the history of psychology, we could comfort to say that memory are stored in the different regions of the brain from the memory storage theory. And furthermore, patient HM experiment proved the theory of multiple memory storage. Here are the 3 different references that I used in the presentation, and thanks for your time.